Hello, I'm Mark Small, Civil Discourse Now. It is November 20th, 2024, and Cassie Jackson is here. Cassie, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you again.
Oh, good to see you, even though we're in a depressing state where we're headed towards tyranny. Uh,
Yeah.
the last 24 to 48 hours has been rather bizarre. Uh, I think that when people look at the national political scene, they don't realize that we're headed towards a dictatorship. And like one local podcaster, John Schmitz, was saying, I don't want to hear about Project 2025. And now we're seeing Project 2025 in motion. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not something we can joke about. Um, that's really kind of major. And it filters through to every daily aspect of activity. I mean,
Right. I mean, there's a reason that like this whole Christian nationalist alt-right movement focused on social issues because they were serious about them. I know everyone wants to talk about their gas and all of this and all of that and economy and like that's really all cool and fine, except that you have been screaming about these social issues that everyone thought once Trump was in office would be put to the side so we could get, our gas prices down.
well, and here's the thing also. I mean, you look at the advances that have been made in this society on LGBTQ rights, because it seemed like, years of struggle, and then boom, they had marriage equality, and a lot of stuff just nobody would have thought could go through like that did.
Mhm.
And they're finding out, and this is an odd thing in history. People like to talk about how, well, Reconstruction after the Civil War really didn't work that well. It was working. It went for 10 years after the Civil War. And then when Rutherford B. Hayes was running for president, the Republicans wanted to keep hold of the White House, and the balloting was really close, and the votes went to the House potentially. They didn't actually, but Rutherford B. Hayes cut a deal with Southern Democrats so he could stay in the White House, but federal troops were withdrawn from the Confederacy. And that's an example of how racism has been institutionalized in this country. But I don't think people understand how fast rights are going to go by the wayside.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, now in saying that though, Mark, would you, and this is truly a question because I don't know enough about politics. As people know, like I've gotten into this political game like maybe 4 years ago, but my background is in psychology. So, I mean, in terms of human behavior, my thought would be, and I know, can we even look to the future, but as rights are taken, there's going to be like I mean, more of a pushback psychologically. People, are going to come together, push back. Like, how's it going to look when all of the truly when we have brown and black people who are being detained because they look like illegal immigrants, and the police or law
Yeah,
enforcement, for example, get to like have these rights where they wouldn't before. I mean, do you think there'll be this pushback or?
well, no, I think there are different aspects of our society are affected by things. And like, for example, people are here without proper documentation or overstaying documentation who are immigrants. There are people who are filling jobs that Americans who are citizens here don't want. One example is a plant up in Logansport, it's a meat packing plant, and a state senator that represents that area said, "We don't have anybody up here." I mean, they have a lot of
Haitian.
Haitian
That's when
immigrants.
with the Haitian stuff, right? They have a lot of Haitians up there.
Yeah, and he goes, "You don't want to walk into a meatpacking plant. First part where they do." He goes, and they're willing to do those jobs, and they pay their taxes, and they obey the laws. So when you're looking at that, you say, well, okay, that makes sense. Well, where is this crime spree of immigrants invading the country? And it doesn't exist. I mean,
And
they like
also for the
to say,
people that are so terrorized about this idea of this kind of invasion by this exotic other, right? Is what we call it in, sometimes in psychology, is it's bizarre because they have no real life examples of how these people have actually um, you know, made their lives more difficult, right? Both I mean, come on.
but on the other hand, we have excellent examples in history of people seizing power and saying they're acting on authority of God and killing a whole bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I don't think people
I just saw,
realize.
let me just interject right here. I saw, and I'm going to actually post in the comments of this episode so you guys can all can see it. It was actually shocking to me. And it was a photo that was turned into a black and white version of it. And it, you know, when you look at it quickly, it's all these people like holding their hands. It looks like in a Hitler salute. But then the caption reminds you that it's a Trump rally, and you look closely and they like have their finger up as like one, but all of their arms are literally up in the air. It's just so sad that people cannot understand that. Yeah, sorry.
And they try to act like they're getting away with something when,
I mean, side by side photos of people screaming for Hitler, raising their hand, and then Trump, right? It's just
well, and it gets down to this. You have Trump is announcing he's going to be a dictator. He's putting the worst people into specific agencies. People have said they want to destroy those agencies that you possibly could put in.
People don't understand. People are not taking seriously. Excuse me for interrupting you, but 70,000 of us as mental health professionals signed off on malignant narcissism for Trump. That's unheard of. That's taboo. We have not seen this patient in our physical presence. You don't do that. You can lose your license for that. 70,000 of us were willing to sign off on that. So what you were saying, what I'm saying is like when someone tells you something, you know, that little like listen to them. I mean, you didn't listen, but he said it. It's not, I can give him credit for this. At this point, the stuff that he said that he wanted to do, he is continuing to say that, right?
Yeah. Well, and when people have said that's not going to happen, and it is happening, the problem is once it happens and he's in that office,
there's no going back from that.
That's right. And here's another thing. It's like when people are talking about how history is being, and they haven't studied history, that makes it a bit unnerving also. There's one, and I'll close with this. There's a play that was done in ancient Greece. It was by Aristophanes. And Aristophanes had some really, really good plays. But Lysistrata,
I had to read them at Columbia. We read all of that. They're on our like building etched in these greats. Go ahead. Great white men, by the way.
Well, Lysistrata is a play in which the women of Greece go on strike to end the Peloponnesian War. And Lysistrata's husband is in the Athenian army, and so the women stop having sex with their husbands.
What's happening right now in 4B movement?
The Spartan women hear about it, and the Spartan women go on strike. That didn't actually happen. Unfortunately, it didn't, because they continued to battle in wars, the Peloponnesian Wars, for, I think it was more than a few years. But the point was a strike could be had. Women are so they're pivotal to this whole thing in politics. And they've been pulling men's fat out of the fire for the last decade or so on voting. And that's why the Republicans want to take women out of the picture as much as possible and reduce rights to vote. So one thing people should really need to consider is going on strike. That'd be like the day after Thanksgiving, go on strike completely. Don't go into work, stop doing things. I'm saying that, and people are going, well, are you going to do that? Who else is going to do that? There hasn't been anybody at the center saying we need to get this done. And once that son bitch gets into office, pardon my language, that goddamn son bitch gets into office, it's gonna be too late.
And that's like this fear, this like overwhelming fear of like, let's tiptoe. That's another thing. That's a really great point I want to bring up. He has been very clear on what on like being retaliatory or him wanting to get back at people. And we've seen that, I'm talking about Trump, all throughout his history, right? So again, this is what looks so silly for these Democrats who are now like meeting with him in the news media or like trying to, no, again, just like he's told you he's going to be a dictator, he will still come after you. You can't do any amount of ass kissing right now with narcissistic personality disorder, because all his side would have to do is play one clip of you saying something negative, and his very, very shattered self-esteem, despite how he is so confident, it's shattered. It will intimately, that's all you have to do, and he's coming back for you. So I don't understand why there's even this idea, there's even, and excuse me for going on, but even a question of if we should try to like come to the middle or continue to speak out. It's like it's happening either way to all of us, right? If you've said something or done something, if so, we should continue to be speaking out.
And we have to do something radical, but I'm a pacifist also. Cassie,
That's
thanks for
fine.
being here. This is
A
silly
strike. I say we
personal.
strike. I'm gonna strike with you.
Sounds cool.